Okay, so this is the Whole Mad Academy podcast, episode 142. My guest today is David Kite, a divorce consultant who I know professionally because I've referred people to him. I also know him kind of socially because he's been to Whole Mad Academy dinners for quite a while. And it's good to be back on the podcast. The last pod I did for guys was had to look was in December of 2024. And the reason I took that time off was because I was busy building events for the men, building the network, which is the kind of membership which I run, which has now grown to 26 men, which is all good. And yeah, it was just, you can't keep all the plates spinning. So it's good to be back doing the podcast. And David, I've got a lot to cover. But David, first off, brother, how are you and where are you?
Yeah, I'm really well. Yeah, sitting in my flat at Warwick, living the dream.
Yep.
Post divorce, I'm someone who's come through the other end and honestly really have a great life. So
Yeah.
you guys out there, when you listen to what we're talking on the podcast, it's not all a hell trip. There is rainbow pot of gold at the end of it. Yeah.
It's important to kind of say that, as you say, you've been through divorce, and I haven't, and hopefully never will do. But I always find it interesting if people are giving advice on stuff and they haven't actually lived that experience. And not to say that their advice couldn't be good, but it's important for guys to understand that, as you said, divorce can be a wild beast, and it can either go really well for you or it can be a fucking disaster, which I know with some men that I'm friends with that have gone through divorce and found it really challenging. And I was thinking of kind of breaking it down into, how men lose themselves pre-divorce. Why does divorce happen? The identity of like, who the fuck am I now when you're going through or have divorce, letting go of all the shit that comes with it, especially if it turns a bit toxic, as it were. And the last one was like redirection afterwards. But tell me first, like for you with divorce, I mean, I know I was looking up the numbers and, different countries differ completely. But where are you on the fact, obviously you got divorced many years ago. Where do you think that came from?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a simple case that we both grew into different people.
Mm,
So, yeah, if I'm honest with you, very much in love at the beginning of our relationship. I was in my mid 20s. My career was going well, relationship was good. I'd had a few girlfriends along the way, which kind of bit the dust,
yeah.
but found absolutely the right girl for me. We met at work, uh, two great kids. So, and we had, a really, really good life. Um, then the kind of children left the fold, as they do, as late teenagers,
Mm,
university, college, work, whatever. And I think the kind of things kind of got a little bit frayed. I think I stayed very much as the person I always was, um, but I think my wife had changed,
mm.
and what she wanted was different to what I wanted. Um, we talked about a reconciliation. We had a make or break holiday um, in where was it? In Croatia,
Right.
and she was going to cancel it. I said, look, it's a 4 grand holiday. We're going to
Mhm.
get 500 quid back.
Yeah, we're
So,
going.
let's just work the maths. Let's just go, see how it goes. We'll talk a couple of weeks
Yeah.
afterwards. And well, actually, just a week afterwards, she said, I've had enough. It's
And how did you
uh,
feel at that time? Did you feel like that was the right thing or?
you know what? I was ready for it. I
Yeah.
think it had run its course. I didn't see any point in couples counselling.
Mhm.
Some people go down that route, but to be honest, the marriage had just run its course. Two great kids, great life, and it just fizzled out.
Yeah.
So I took professional advice, um, and really two routes you can go down. Basically, you can either separate or we get divorced. Separation, it's a bit of a wishy-washy, to be honest. And sometimes it can be the right thing. You can have a period of separation while you kind of regroup if you think there's something to come back to, and if you
Mhm.
think you can, regather
Reconcile.
yourselves
Yeah.
together. For me, it was route one. It was divorce. Um, and yeah, I mean, I'd like to think I'm quite a happy-go-lucky type of guy.
Mm.
That's the face you see.
Yeah.
I am also very, very. determined and I can be really, really focused. So I took it as a project. I kind of got the blinkers on,
Yeah.
and for me, it was a project. Just get the damn thing over the line.
Become practical.
Yeah, I got super practical. Um, if I'm absolutely honest with you, I was a complete arsehole at work. Absolute.
And what
I
what were you
mean,
doing work-wise at the time? Like, how did that affect work as
so
well?
yeah, I was working. I was working at a building society. Unfortunately, my career was in banking, but I'd had quite a serious eye operation a few years back, and that may have been a factor behind the divorce, possibly because unfortunately my income took a drop
Mhm.
because I couldn't do the job I was doing, which actually was was quite. I was dealing with fraud, bank
Yeah.
fraud, so very very forensic stuff. I loved it, but I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So I went to building society as basically customer advisor, where I didn't have to kind of trawl over stats and
Mm.
figures and all that kind of stuff to give my eyes a bit of a break, basically, just to see really whether I could hold down a job of work,
Yeah.
which I was able to. Um, but when you go through divorce, you've almost got your day job and another half day job on top of.
Yeah.
So you have to be really really focused with time. Fortunately, the job was a complete doddle for me. I could do it
Always
standing on
helps.
my head.
Yeah.
So I was actually able to do a very, very big chunk of the divorce work while I was working for my employer.
Hmm.
Good thing was because I was an interviewer, I had my own room, and
Yeah.
I was able to do all this kind of stuff. And I don't think they ever really kind of clocked,
Yeah. Yeah.
or if they did, they certainly did not realise that
The extent of it.
3 hours out of the working day, I was working on my divorce.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was still at target. I was still the top achiever in the
Mm.
firm.
But it's on that. It's a good reminder, isn't it, that it's not just the emotional kind of toil. It is the organization and the whole fallout of it as well. Because you don't just sign a form and it's done.
No, I mean there is it is one of the most onerous projects you've got to do. Some I've actually dealt with probate. When my dad
Mm.
passed, and there'll be a lot of men on the Whole Men Academy who probably have to deal with that.
Yeah.
It's very very much akin with that kind of project, but probably multiplied a few times
Yeah.
because you get curveballs coming from solicitors. My ex was saying this, that, and the other. And so I had to kind of respond. And it was very difficult not to respond with anger in the
Mm.
moment. The best thing to do was kind of reflect. And it was really tough to learn this, to reflect and do the email
Yeah.
after a decent night's sleep
Yeah.
and do it the following day. But the other thing was I wasn't sleeping very well.
I was going to say because it's having spoke to, I mean, again, there's 26 guys in the network now, and several of them have gone through divorce or going through something similar. And again, it can affect each of us differently. And if then you're suffering with sleep or that kind of waking up in the middle of the night wondering what the fuck's going on with your life, it can be really hard.
Yeah, I mean, I was getting 2 or 3 hours sleep a day,
Mm.
a night. And, you can't, unfortunately, not one who needs a great deal of sleep. I'm kind of 6 to 7 hours type.
Yeah,
Any more than that, I'm too fuzzy. Any less, just
yeah,
about manage a few days,
yeah.
but not constantly 2 or 3 hours. So basically speaking, I went to see a herbalist and got kind of herbal medication. I did want to see the doctor. I didn't want to take the stress card at work
Mm.
um, because I was still living at the family home.
Yeah,
I basically, I lived in one of the kids' bedrooms
yeah.
as like a student would,
Well, it's
and
really
we were,
important, and
working, living that life.
that's such a big part of it. I mean, one of the guys that was in the network, he basically is now divorced from his wife, I believe, but went through the separation. But of course, as you said, when you're living in the same place, it can become very unharmonious. And I know for him, he had an issue where he could hear his wife on the phone in their bedroom, and she was on the phone to another man.
Oh
And
God, yeah,
yeah, if you're in a different house, then you don't have to experience that. But if you're living there and and of course, divorce or separation, regardless of whether it's divorce or not, can happen for various reasons. It could be that you've grown apart or one of you is seeing someone else or whatever. But it is very hard if you're both living in the same under the same roof and with kids.
yeah, and it was. It was purely down to maths, you know.
Mm.
Um, Having been the primary income earner, and earning good money, I'd had this eye operation a couple of years or so. Yeah, about 2 years before the divorce started, and I was on a job that didn't pay anywhere like what I was used to.
Yeah.
So pre-divorce, the finances were that little bit tighter.
Yeah.
So there was no option of me renting or
Mm.
anything. Yes, friends will always put you up, but they won't put you up indefinitely.
Yeah.
You've got
Yeah.
2 weeks,
And you want your own space, don't you?
and you want your own space. So basically, the way it kind of worked, and it kind of worked. It wasn't great, but basically speaking, um, we lived separate lives under the same roof.
Mm.
My wife had the marital bedroom with the ensuite. I had one of the kids' crappy bedrooms.
Yeah.
Got a I don't know, got one of these kind of canvas
Yeah.
wardrobe things that the cat kept knocking over and stuff, and all my clothes always ended up on the
Good
floor.
times. Yeah.
So proper kind of studenty, kind of bed city kind of stuff. Although I never went to university, but it's like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
like university
Yeah.
kind of digs. And yeah, we just made sure we ate at different times and all this kind of stuff, and
Mm.
it was bonkers, really, but it was all we could do at the end of the day.
And
And
nothing, I guess nothing can prepare you for that as well. Because, I kind of broke it down in obviously for a lot of guys, in a way, being a divorce consultant, the ideal thing would be for you to be out of a job because there was no divorce, because everybody meets someone and lives in harmony. But as
yeah,
we know, that doesn't happen. And I guess it's interesting to talk about, let's say guys are listening who are either going through divorce. Maybe it's, when I say too late for them to resurrect their whatever's happened between them. But I know when I went on a Tony Robbins event many years ago out in Miami, and they said at the time, if you're going through a relationship where you're not entirely sure whether it's going to last or not, it's an expensive business when it doesn't, especially if there's kids and houses and all that involved, and emotionally. And what their advice was, go away, go home, and for 3 months, show up as the man you should be in a relationship. Give it your all. And if after 3 months it's still not working, you've given it a chance. But if after 3 months things have turned around, hopefully that will change. But
yeah,
what's your thoughts on that? Because obviously there's the pre-divorce stuff, which is where the damage is done to some extent.
yeah. No, I think that's quite a good idea. Now, one of the things that my business was set up post divorce
Mm,
as a consequence of having gone through what I went through,
yeah,
basically, with my financial background being like my business experience and my personal divorce as the kind of personal side of things.
yeah,
That's how the business came about. So yeah, what I would say is one of the things that if I had known about divorce consultants, if there were people like me around, and actually there are now quite a few divorce consultants around,
right.
but I believe I'm quite unique. Oh, just excuse me, wine.
Wine delivery.
Oh, reset.
Right, we're back. David had a very important wine delivery.
Yeah.
But yes, where were we?
So yeah, yeah, we were talking about you were talking about having like a 3 month kind of make yourself the best man
Yeah,
you
kind of
can
a
be,
make or break.
and you make all kind of break thing. And yeah, I think I started to allude to the background to me setting up my business. And just very briefly, there are effectively three types of divorce consultant around. Much, much more now than there was when I set my business up 5 years ago. And my business was set up literally 2 weeks after I got the divorce done. So,
Strike whilst
so
the iron's hot.
clearly it was like a proper passionate kind of business. I
Yeah.
knew I had to do something because of the kind of unfairness of really just going to solicitors and just
Mm.
chucking money after money after money. So yeah, three types. So one is the emotional type of divorce consultant. So there'd be the kind of helping people go through the mental
Yeah.
stress,
So more like
strain,
more like the counselling side
the
of things.
counselling
Right.
types. There's that type. You've got the legal types. Virtually all of them have been ex solicitors.
Right.
Okay, so they've all kind of jumped over the fence really. Um, and then there's the financial divorce consultant,
Mm.
of which I believe I'm the only one
Right.
with the 30 odd years of background in personal finance
Yeah.
and having gone through divorce myself.
Because the money
I
side of
think
it
I'm
is
probably
such a
the money.
huge part.
At the end of the day, if there's kind of abuse going on, um, and whether it be mental, financial, or physical, there may be other matters involved, but in most divorces, it's down to the numbers.
Hmm.
Now, solicitors aren't trained in personal finance;
Hmm.
they're trained in legal. So, when you look at divorce, there's kind of three parts. You've got the emotional, you've got the financial, you've got the legal.
Yeah.
But solicitors do the whole lot. And that's where some of the problems come in because
Do you
they
think
can't do
people
it all.
do you think people go to a solicitor too early as well because they don't realize there's other options?
Much, much too early.
Right.
Now, I get a lot of my clients that fall within this 3 month period you were talking about. So, okay, whilst they're becoming the best version they can do,
Yeah.
giving it a chance, you gain a lot of mental strength by knowledge.
Hmm.
Knowledge is power. So I have a lot of clients come to me saying, look, marriage is not great. I'm not sure what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And I'm really worried about the financials. I'm worried how I'm going to come out financially at the end. I want to be fair,
Yeah. Especially when
but
there's kids
I
involved.
want to know really, how I'm going to kind of split the cake.
Mm.
And that's what I do. So I see a lot of clients through this kind of 3 month kind of period, this kind of period of kind of consideration period. What do I do?
Hmm.
Period. And it's the old fail to prepare, prepare to fail type of thing. You know, if you've got an idea as to what the law's going to say, you can do financially, and you've got someone, a financial expert, who can actually say this is how you can slice all the different assets you've got, the
Yeah.
different pieces of the cake, because pensions is money tomorrow.
Hmm.
Equity in property is money today, but obviously there are estate agents' fees, tax considerations, possibly if there's more than one
Yeah.
property. You've got savings and investments, you've got money invested in bonds or PEPs or anything like that, stock market based investments. There's kind of charges, exit fees, and all that kind of stuff.
So it's a minefield.
So all money isn't equal.
Mm.
So it's a case of, okay, because all money isn't equal, what's more important to you? Money today, or that pension pot you built up over your lifetime,
Yeah.
or kind of splitting it, a bit of everything, and then
Mm.
you've got other complications that come in, like children. So if you've got
Yeah.
children there, they come first because, they have to have good living arrangements. They have
Yeah.
to be maintained financially and all this kind of stuff. So it's,
There's a
it
shitload
is a
to
bit, but yeah,
consider.
so why do solicitors do it
Hmm.
when they are legally trained and not financially trained?
Yeah.
So because everyone's been conditioned to think divorce, family solicitor.
Yeah.
And it's still that way for the majority of people.
Hmm.
However, that there is a narrowing. I think it was 99% solicitor, might have been even more than that
Yeah.
when I got divorced. It's probably about 97%
But at least there's
solicitor
other
now.
options.
So there are quite a lot more divorce consultants, but
Yeah.
not many that I am aware of, or indeed any that do the financials.
And have I mean, at the moment we're recording this in what we October 2025, and in my view, the government are busy trying to destroy small businesses and force everybody on universal basic income, which is a really good rabbit hole to go down. But are they making life easier for people to get divorced, harder, more expensive, or kind of no change at all? Like, I have no concept of like what is
Uh,
has the landscape changed
to be
recently for?
honest, it doesn't make a lot of
Yeah.
difference. What I do tend to find is that, just purely personally from me and my diary, when you've got like the fear of the budget that's going to happen,
Mm.
things go a little bit quieter for me
Yeah.
because there is that sense of uncertainty. once it's all come out, so we got this November mini budget, whatever you want to call it, I'll be busy,
Yeah.
you know, in the first week that's been announced, because people will have clarity on what is
Mm.
going to get taxed, and then I will then go through.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the government's trying to leak things through, but you're never really too sure what
Yeah.
is a genuine leak or what's kind of
Yeah.
people want
Yeah.
to
Who
believe.
knows?
So yeah, yeah, quite interesting, really. But
Yeah.
no, I mean, the premise is basically the same.
Yeah.
And I have clients, I have international clients, because basically speaking, it's a similar kind of project
Yeah.
process. You know, it's
Regardless of where they are.
knowing your clients, KYC, know your clients.
Yeah.
You know, as you would have done in your financial world. You know, you had clients who were super high net worth
Mm.
with high risk, or maybe medium risk, or
Yeah.
high octane risk, and
Yeah.
you'd help them kind of find the right investments that kind of suited them. And I try and find the right kind of solution for my clients based upon knowledge of them, but also very importantly, knowledge of their spouse.
Right. Yes, the
So it's
situation.
all great. I work with one party, but it's all great me saying, yeah, this is great. This is what you can have. Bum 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 bum. Yeah, go for this. If there's absolutely no way whatsoever that the other side's going to buy into that plan,
Mm.
so you have to try and think, well, what do you think your husband, your wife
Is
would
gonna.
want? What do you think they would think about this that you're asking for?
And would
The
you
numbers are fair, but you
would
know,
you be able to work in mediation between the two? As in, instead of one being a client,
yeah.
could it be that you work for the two of them, or is that too
I
tangled?
have on very few occasions. Um, so what I've basically done, I'll put it straight out there that I'm not a qualified mediator.
Mm.
However, see, as a consultant, I've got the skill set. I, as an advisor, you have to be licensed. As a consultant, you're not licensed for anything.
Yeah.
You have to have a skill set and a competency. Now, I'll be honest with you, I've done loads and loads of mediation with colleagues at work where people have fallen out at work and I've had to
Yeah.
bang heads together, all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
You've dealt with kids. Yeah.
So yeah, and kids. So actually, I've got life experience of mediation.
Yeah.
If I get in that kind of situation, what I tend to do, I tend to say, well, I tend to say, look, I'm working with John as my client.
Yeah.
So Mary, John is my client. However, what I'd like to try and do is explain what I've kind of talked about with John,
Hmm.
the ideas that he's got, and explain with you, so you have an understanding of what he's thinking about.
Yeah.
Um, and really kind of gather your kind of thoughts on that. Is that the kind of route that you might be interested in?
Yeah.
Um, so really, I can kind of equip you to maybe go both to mediation. So it's almost like a pre-mediation
Mm.
arrangement.
At least
So
it's
yeah,
at least it's an option because I know it, emotionally hard for men. And again, thankfully, well, I say thankfully, none of us have been taught how this works before it happens, so it's all kind of completely new to us.
yeah,
And that's where really, say like prevention is a good option to start with. Is first off looking and saying, and I wrote it down. I've written a small list so I don't fuck it up. But the silent unraveling, how men
mm,
lose themselves before divorce even starts. And I know as that kind of thing we say, divorce doesn't start with the papers that are served by the solicitor or the consultant or whatever. It begins years before. Like, talk
yeah.
to me about what you see, especially, predominantly with men who are going to be men listening. But, what are the things that they're saying? Is it that I know it depends on each situation, but maybe that they could have done more earlier in the relationship, but maybe you've only just realised it now?
Um, Possibly so. Um, I think, to be honest, most of the divorces and the clients I see, it's a natural kind of wear out of
Mhm.
the marriage. And I kind of see life a bit different now to maybe 30 years ago. We're
Yeah.
living longer. So if you think about it, life expectancy 30 odd years ago, probably, we would expect to be alive until perhaps early 70s.
Yeah.
So you'd retire at 60, 65, and you'd probably have 10 years of retirement, then you'd be in a box.
Yeah.
Um, I think in that kind of world, when you got retired, you stuck with the person you married because you only had 10 years left.
Yeah.
we're living till in our 90s now. That's
Hmm.
kind of almost like the norm.
Yeah.
So I see us actually having three periods of life.
Hmm.
So you obviously got your schooling years and maybe up to kind of 30. So you got your courting, marrying period, or setting up, your
Yeah.
nest home, um, having children, obviously the early years of your children. So that's a kind of like your first stage. Then you've got like your second stage, where basically speaking, you are as a bloke, and obviously the roles are slightly different now, but generally speaking, you are, in most cases, the major financial provider.
Mm.
You are grafting your nuts off to try
Yeah.
and earn a good income to sustain a really nice lifestyle for your family. And you want to be smashing records at work. You want to be seen to be, a good all-round guy who's
Yeah.
really working hard, and and you're kind of shattered at the
Succeeding.
weekend, and so that's like your second stage. And then what quite often happens is, because you are so focused on work and being that provider,
Mm.
perhaps you're not giving as much attention to
Home.
your wife,
Yeah.
your partner, your wife or partner, because you can only juggle so many balls up in the air, and it's difficult,
Hmm.
you know. Um, and then quite often, your wife will look at it and think, he's not got time for me.
Yeah.
He's not the guy that we had fun with in our
Mm.
mid to late 20s.
Especially when kids have arrived, and
Yeah,
yes, kids bring mostly a financial kind of taxing as well, but also emotional, the time, the sleep, everything else. You just end
yeah,
up, I mean, we've got three little kids who are 8, 6, and 2. So, there's never a dull moment. And back to when, 10 years ago, we didn't have kids, you had all the time in the world to do whatever you wanted of an
yeah.
evening and daytime. Whereas now, one of you's here, there, and everywhere. And, by the time the kids go to bed at 8:30, we're kind of, then you tidy the house up and then you kind of go to bed. You haven't got time to go and do anything else.
No, and that's the kind of thing. And then, of course, then the kids would have probably have left by the time you're hitting your late 50s.
Mm.
So you got the empty nesters, and then you kind of think, we're not really got a lot in common.
Yeah. What's left? Yeah.
We can try date night, but it will work for some, it won't
Mm.
work for others. And some people go right through all of that lot, maybe don't crank on with the work quite so hard or whatever. They kind
Yeah.
of probably have a better work-life balance, and probably their marriages will run right through the full duration.
Hmm.
But it's not a failure to get divorced in your late 50s or 60s or
Yeah.
early 60s. What it is actually a kind of a rediscovery of a new life for you, and you owe
Mm.
it to your wife to give her the opportunity
Yeah.
to have a new life.
I think
So,
that's just a really important point, and regardless of whether it's been marriage or just a relationship. But I've had this conversation with men before, especially if I've done coaching with them, and we'll obviously talk naturally about relationships, some that are single and some that are married and or divorced. And you say, I've seen that where guys will feel some kind of guilt around getting divorced. And again, yes, in an ideal world, you'd meet the person, you stay with them forever and live happy ever after. But as you said, men change, women change, circumstances change. And what you don't want to be is locked in a relationship where one or both parties are unhappy, but just staying there because it seemed like the best idea at the time. And I had, sadly, knew men that worked in the city that stayed with their wife very nobly, but because of the kids, but they
yeah,
were basically living separate lives. On the outside, you'd think everything's going well, and on the inside, like you say, he was living in the spare room, going out on his own at weekends, just seeing the kids and kind of existing. And you say, well, you don't want to go through life because no one wins when that happens.
no, that's right. And as I say, that third stage of life, you've probably got 30 years.
Yeah.
So, you know, no, go, you know, once you're going through technically through the divorce process,
Hmm.
you are absolutely entitled to date someone,
Yeah.
do your online date and do it however you want to. It's absolutely and perfectly acceptable,
Mm.
and actually a good thing to do,
Yeah. Well, it
you know.
makes you feel alive again. I think that's important. And funny, which kind of comes on to the second point on my list, which is the identity collapse. When for years you've been David or Anthony or John or Mark with your wife, and then suddenly, if you haven't got, if you're not seeing someone else and it's just back to you, suddenly you kind of feel a bit lost.
Yeah, you don't get invited to dinner parties and all that kind of thing. You are the kind of,
Outcast.
yeah, you are the number three. Well, yeah, we'll invite Dave to the meal because, he's always been my best mate and he's going through a lot of shit at the moment.
Yeah.
Poor old Dave, poor old
Mm.
Dave, poor old John, poor old Bill.
Yeah, yeah,
They just get shunted, and I had a period of that, and it's great. I've got good mates and whatnot who kind of did that. And you start thinking, this is ridiculous. I like being part of a unit.
yeah,
I like being in a relationship. Before I got married, I used to have, plenty of girlfriends. Some stuck around for a couple of weeks, couple of months, and one stuck for 29 years.
yeah, yeah,
um, and I've always liked the company of women.
yeah.
So, and so yeah, it was natural for me to try and
Find someone
help
else
my
and
mates.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I mean, to be honest, I saw it as like rather than just go out for a beer with your mates. I saw it as actually having a nice conversation with a pleasant woman when you do some dating stuff.
yeah.
It's a bit more of an exciting weekend, really, isn't it? Than just
Mm.
up the boozer.
Well, we all need that, don't we? Several of the guys I've spoke to who don't have a partner, regardless of whether they've got divorced or not, that's the problem is, I mean, especially in the last few years where the working from home kind of numbers have increased. And what you've seen is some companies that have technically forced their employees to work from home.
Yeah,
But if you haven't got a partner and now you haven't got an office to go into and a commute and stuff like that, for a lot of men, you end up losing that routine of the family, routine of the wife, routine of going to work, and you lose a bit of your I don't again, I guess better word than identity because you're also not mingling with people and stuff like that.
yeah. I mean, best times at work was like having a chat at the coffee machine. You
Mm,
go in the morning, talk about football the night before or
yeah.
whatever it might be with your mates.
Have a beer
You know,
after and
the girls can talk about EastEnders and the soaps,
yeah,
and the blokes will always talk about the sport and kind of other stupid stuff
yeah,
that they want
yeah.
to. Yeah, yeah. Working from home is a real difficult one. What I did, I my brother actually said to me. He said when he heard about my divorce, he said, "What you want to do is make yourself the most interesting version of yourself you possibly can do."
Mm.
I must admit, I don't like my brother. We're like the Gallagher brothers, we kind
Right.
of
Yeah.
we kind of yeah.
But you made a good point.
But about the only bloody sensible thing he said in his whole life
Yes.
to me.
Yeah.
And I've actually took that on board. And
And
actually,
how do you do that?
so actually, what I did was, I used to support Leamington FC, my local football team, as a kid. When I was like 14, I used to go to matches until I was caught in, I suppose,
Mm.
really. So probably about 8 years or so doing that. I thought I'm going to reconnect and I'm going to go to a local match,
Yeah.
and we got a chat with a guy on the terraces, and a real nice guy called Tufty. He was another Dave, but known as Tufty. People use nicknames, don't these
Yeah.
things? And he said, "Yeah," he said, "Hey, you're a good bloke." He said, "We always meet at the particular pub every Saturday when there's a home game. We have a few beers, go to the match, and have a few beers afterwards." I said, "Well, great." I
Sounds
said,
good.
or if I, jump on board. He said, "Yeah, of course you can, mate. Of course you can." And I go like, I don't go to every match because now I've kind of got a partner now, but I
Yeah.
go once a month.
Yeah. Just keep
And
your toe
and
in.
and I also, because there's a difficulty with them driving to some of the evening games, I'll
Mhm.
always do the evening match because they're on a Tuesday night. It's a naff night. I can, so I've got that.
Yeah.
Another thing, I used to play the guitar a little bit as a kid. I was crap, but I've now taken up the guitar. I've been doing that for about 3 years, and
Yeah.
you probably know through Alan, who's obviously one of your members of
Yeah.
the academy. Um, you know, I play guitar and I'm absolutely loving it because it's like it really stretches me. It's not just knocking out chords.
Hmm.
I'm doing like the solos and stuff. It's all a bit shit, really, but it's so
Yeah.
I'm doing that, and I'm making myself. I'd like to think, quite an interesting bloke. I
Yeah,
got the
yeah,
business, got that to talk about,
yeah.
and
I,
it is a really exciting business I'm doing. I love every minute of it because I'm helping people
yeah,
navigate their way through a difficult time of their life. So although I'm not that close, my brother,
yeah. But he did give you one good.
I took that one nugget of advice from him, and to be honest, it's been a game changer.
Yeah.
I've now got a partner, and in fact, if I hold this up here, we've now kind of got commitment rings.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
Yeah, so literally just a couple of weeks, couple of 3 weeks back. Yeah, we've gone out for
yeah,
6 years. So we thought, let's make ourselves a unit. We won't go through the complexities of marriage or anything like that,
yeah. But it just
because we
solidifies
don't
things a bit.
need to. But I like the idea of being part of a
Yeah.
unit, you know.
Well,
So
the things about making yourself interesting, there's a lot said online. I mean, obviously, I've been talking about issues for men and challenges and ambition and stuff since 2018. So you can imagine I've seen a lot of people come and go, and I've also seen the messages change. But what has grown as the numbers of people talk about like men and loneliness. And again, I believe that working from home has probably contributed to that as well.
yeah,
But you
definitely.
do have to take ownership of you get to decide if you're lonely, because if you're saying, do you know what, I'm going to go to the local football or go and join the cricket club or go and do something,
Yeah,
no one else is going to make you do it. So you do have to take it upon yourself to go and put, and it can be awkward, it can be uncomfortable, but you reap what you sow.
it is. It was quite difficult,
Yeah,
and also old colleagues or friends that you kind of left by the wayside a little bit. Um, regrouping with some old pals and stuff,
mm,
and just saying, "Yeah, it's been ages." I said, how about let's go out for a beer?
yeah,
You may or may not be away. I've just got divorced, and it'd be nice to catch up. It's been a long, long time. I mean, could be 10 years, but
yeah.
it's really funny with blokes. After the first half a pint, it's like you've never been away. Blokes are so forgiving. They'll have you back in
Yeah.
because actually
It's
most of them have gone through the same shit as you.
I was just going to say, they all understand, and it's so funny when you hear, I've dated quite a lot of women, so I have a various extensive experience of this, where they'll say, "Oh, I haven't heard from whoever for 2 months," and I'll say, "Well, have you messaged them?" And they say, "Well, no." And it's funny because as a man, I've got friends I haven't spoke to, like a guy that contacted me for over 2 years. We haven't spoken, but
Mm.
neither of us say, "Oh, why haven't you texted me?" I'm like, I could give a fuck, mate. I've been busy, but it's just good to
Yeah,
connect with again. And this is why. I mean, I was going to ask you, obviously, with you've been to quite a few of the dinners I've done up in the
yeah,
Cotswolds, and again, the first dinner I did was 2019. So there's been a lot of dinners in London, Winchester, and the Cotswolds. But that's a prime example of, you get guys coming to that who don't know anyone apart from they've connected with me through Instagram or LinkedIn or podcasts or whatever. And it takes balls and guts to come to these things. But then afterwards, they've messaged saying, that was such a fucking good night out. I really
yeah.
needed it.
Yeah, no, I love the events. It's really, really good because um, they're all guys with completely different careers and life,
Yeah.
and lifestyles, and you know, different
Yeah.
ethos on life, and goodness knows whatever.
And that's where
And
it's interesting, isn't
and
it?
and that is what is so good. Yeah.
Mm. That's
Um,
exactly why.
you know,
I mean, even the 2 day event that I've done, each year, the Adventurer, which is up in the Cotswolds. What I love about that is is inexpensive, so money shouldn't be a barrier for guys to come along. Because for me, it's more about you could say, oh, it's you're charging a lot more money, but also some of the guys there that are in the network, it's like we become even more kind of integrated as a good kind of brotherhood and team when they can all get to these things.
yeah,
But that's what guys often say is there's hardly anything around for men to go to, whether it is a dinner or a 1 day event or a 2 day event, because it can be hard, especially if you've got a wife at home and you're saying, "Oh, I've been at work a week, but now I'm going to piss off for 2 days and do stuff or one whole day."
yeah,
Look, if you can do one or two of those a year or one a year, it can be so helpful for you, whether you've got a marriage that's going tits up or whether you've got a great marriage or whatever, regardless. But those events where we all get together can be so fun. B, you make some good new connections, and C, you kind of just, I know, it's like a breath of fresh air, basically.
yeah. Blokes need blokes company.
Mm.
And there's a lot of blokes that don't have male friends.
Yeah.
And that's really sad, to be honest.
Mm.
You know,
And also, if we look at where we are in the world now, I mean, fuck knows where we're going with, AI and social media. It makes it so hard to know what to believe on any screen anymore.
yeah,
And I was at 2 weeks ago. I went with one of the members of the network, Chris, to the Festival of Entrepreneurs, which is in the NEC in Birmingham. And for those that don't know, it's a, enormous kind of event place. And one of the guys, I mean, there was a lot of talk about AI, unsurprisingly. And yes, it's good to refine your business and optimize things and streamline things. But one of the guys said that there was a talk, and there's probably about 40 people in the audience. And he brought up on a screen, he said, I want you to tell me, put your hand up if this picture is AI. And he showed this first picture of, I know, a dog. Half the room put the hand up. Next picture was a flower, then a something, something, something. And he said, what does it tell you after all this? No one's got a fucking clue because half the room think it is, half think it isn't. We all changed our minds. And he said, this is the problem now is that AI is so good to some extent that you don't know what you basically will never know if what you're seeing on the screen again is honestly real or not because the advances in technology have been so good. So
yeah,
what you now find is that people have very kind of interesting beliefs or strong beliefs about things, which the media I always feel like loves to generate kind of division and hatred and what have you. But the problem there is that it becomes even more important to find the kind of guys you want to hang around with who've got similar views to you.
yeah, no, absolutely, yeah.
This is where um, I mean, again, I've done 140 odd podcasts, but I've made some great connections over the years. And in a way, we talked about it before we pressed record, but one thing social media does is allow you to kind of sniff around that person a bit and see what they're about to gain whether you think you'd get on well with them, to be honest,
Yeah,
which is always is important. Well, I was going to go to, I mean, emotionally it's hard, but I'll go the last one for me for men is, we call it the redirection, is, post divorce. And like we said, yes, you have to kind of put yourself out there again. But what other advice would you give for men who have separated or divorced or split from their partner? Kind of, things that they can do to, you know, not let the divorce define them, basically, possibly more kind of psychologically than physically.
yeah. Well, first of all, the psychological thing we touched on it before is don't feel guilt about getting divorced.
Mm,
Whether your children are pointing the finger or you personally think it's a bit of a failure, it's not a failure. It's just life is life.
yeah, yeah,
Life will chuck you curveballs, and you may not have wanted that divorce. Your spouse may have wanted it, but at the end of the day, it's what's happened.
yeah.
Um, so look at everything as being an opportunity. So again, I got this from my dad basically. If you take a bit of a knock, always take a positive out of everything. Now, the positive from a divorce is it gives the opportunity to do a complete reset of your
Mm,
life
yeah,
rather than just carrying on as you've been doing, bumping along, whatever, which may have been fine. You can actually completely reinvent yourself if you want to, or redefine yourself.
yeah.
And I would say, most divorces, a very large number of divorces tend to happen late 50s, early 60s. The empty nester syndrome tends to be quite a big trigger. So, you've got 30 years ahead.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just think about things. Think about when you're in your 20s, what kind of things gave you a buzz?
Mm,
Because we were all exciting in our 20s. We all used to go to concerts and stuff. We
yeah.
used to get out with our mates on the lash and we used to do stuff. And then we had kids and we did stuff with kids, but we never then kind of did stuff ourselves because
Yeah.
we focused on family.
It's easy
So
to lose yourself then, isn't it? A
you
bit.
can kind of lose yourself. So kind of, I would say, look back to your really happy days. So when you're a single guy or maybe just caught in or whatever, and think about the things you did that really, really gave you a buzz
Yeah.
when you were young. And okay, you're not going to be as fit or as agile as you kind of were in your 20s or whatever. You may not be able to do exactly what you could do in your 20s, but look at those things and think, yeah, as I say, local football. It could be rugby or whatever.
Yeah.
You might be really passionate about your local rugby team, for example, and that just kind of went by. You might still kind of read the little column in the newspapers and the local
Hmm.
papers, whatever, online about how the team did, but you never really kind of proper engaged in. So go back there,
Yeah.
make some friends there, go in the clubhouse, have a beer, have a sit down with someone, or have a chat with someone,
Mm.
make a friend,
Yeah.
make a buddy, a rugby buddy, and then do
Go
that.
from there.
Or again, look at maybe playing sports.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not too bad at tennis, but if you go into a tennis club, or you take a few tennis lessons, or you do badminton, whatever it might be, you're going to meet people.
Yeah.
And if you meet people, you've actually then creating a life.
Yeah, and you're giving yourself a chance
Yeah,
to, if you're looking for a partner, I know online dating has grown massively from, there was online dating when I was kind of when I first met Emma like 10 years ago, but
yeah,
obviously for a lot more people now it's more of an option. But you're right, saying, if it's to do with sports or one of the guys in the network does goes to like tango dancing,
yeah.
other guys,
Great.
try and connect with their cricket team or whatever it is. And I always think, like you said, the world's different now in the fact that there's so much information around, and it
Hmm.
kind of links to the kind of strategy I've had for men, regardless of whether they're what relationship, of being a one night a week man and say, Joe, what, one night a week, commit that night to saying, how can I learn more to be better about my fitness, my mindset, my resilience, my strength, my business, finances.
Yeah,
And like you said, it makes you a more interesting man, to be honest. Um,
yeah,
and I mean, to state the obvious, the last one of that is hence why I started the Whole Man Academy, is to get men together because it's so much fun. So even if it's regardless of whether it's the Whole Man Academy and the membership we run, but there's other men's things around that you can go to. And if you can't find one, fucking start your own one.
yeah. What you don't want to be is that traumatized person who's been through divorce, and
Mm,
you've had your leg chopped off, and you just kind of you've lost your complete mojo and everything.
yeah, yeah,
Um, because actually, no, people will try and support that type of person for a period of time, but they will just grow tired of that type of person
yeah. And it's going to
because
drain people in the end.
they're just going to they will just drain the living soul out of people,
Hmm.
and you know, yeah. So don't become that kind of person.
And
Don't allow yourself to become that person. Become that kind of person who is exciting.
people want to
Maybe,
be around.
yeah,
Well, I wrote my final kind of message as, divorce can be the start of the next chapter.
yeah,
And that for, I always encourage guys to, as you say, make sure they take care of themselves.
yeah,
And maybe it is that you say, you look and say, if I'm restarting my life, what do I want life to look like? And regardless of budget, and if you've got a bit of money in the bank, then that makes life possibly a bit easier. But you're right. The big thing for me is if men want another partner, is make sure you're now showing up as the version of you that you want her to see. It's
yeah,
not that you're not bothering to work out, you're eating shit, you're drinking a lot, you're just sitting watching fucking football all day. It's like, okay, do you from the outside, would you want the woman who potentially could be your next partner to see you doing all that stuff? And is she going to think, oh, there's a man that's going places? Or is it that you have to kind of rip up the rule book and kind of start again, basically? So
yeah.
yeah, do
And
so. Yeah.
I reckon for a lot of guys, it is quite dramatic. But I reckon quite a lot of guys would have to rip up the rule book and
Mm,
start again.
yeah,
But start again with what they used to do 40 years ago,
yeah,
because they were exciting to their wives those days.
yeah.
They
Oh, it's,
found a wife. They found girlfriends in those days.
I was going to say it's like what attracted someone to you in the first place. Can you
Yeah,
get back to being that man, basically? But
yeah,
well, mate, this has been that's why I wanted to get you on the podcast because it's a big topic for men and women, obviously, but for men, there's not that much around spoken about divorce, but of course it can have such a huge bearing. And my kind of final message there is, if you're in a marriage and you're not sure if it's going well, the first thing is look at yourself and say, what are you showing up as the man you can be? Are you, doing stuff for your wife? Are you connecting? Are you looking after yourself, etc.? But if it comes to that stage, then like for yourself, seek professional help because it can make a big difference.
yeah. Do not see it as a failure.
Mm,
And if it's run its course, deal with it.
yeah,
It will be a hell trip of a project.
Mm.
It's no fun.
Yeah.
You won't get a lot of sleep.
Yeah.
You'll struggle to hold down the job at work. But once you've gone through it,
Yeah.
you can then recreate yourself, make yourself a better version that will be infinitely more attractive
Mm.
to your mates around you,
Yeah.
people you don't know, and maybe because of that, you'll be more attractive to the opposite sex as well,
Yeah.
and very likely will find a lifetime partner in the latter stages of your life. So yeah, you know,
It's a good message to finish with because again, I know it can be, knowing men that have gone through it, I know it can be a tough time, but I also know men that have come out the other side and yes, it's been emotionally traumatic and there's been some turmoil, but you look back months, years later and realize it was just, another path of your life that you're going through basically.
yeah, it big spike at the time,
Yeah.
but over a time frame, it's a blip.
Easy. Just
Yeah,
flattening the curve, mate.
it's just flattening the curve because it's over time. Yeah.
Oh no, well, and if guys are interested in going at this stage, want to have a conversation with you, or work with you, what would be the best place to catch you?
The best way is to, if you go on my website, I've got there's a link to my calendar through
Yeah,
Calendly, free 30-minute consultation. I'll have a chat about
yeah,
anything.
go
So
from
even
there.
if it's a case of, how did you get out the other side? They may want to talk to me about their particular circumstances about divorce, or if they just want to chat.
Yeah.
And as a bloke, yeah, I want to. How did you approach building your lifestyle up
Mm,
and making yourself attractive?
yeah,
Which obviously, 6 years with a new partner, now fully committed.
yeah.
It's
Times are good.
life is bloody good, mate.
Yeah.
It's really good.
That's what I like to
You
hear,
know,
and that's one of my big messages for men is, of course, we're going to get challenges, and you're going to be stuff thrown at you, but to state the obvious, you get to decide how you react to them, and it's okay to have a period where things feel like they've gone to shit,
yeah,
but you can come out the other side, basically. Um,
absolutely.
well, mate, as always, when I see you, it's a pleasure. It's good to learn more about you, and I'll put the stuff in the show notes if guys want to connect. And as always, it's a pleasure.
Yeah.
All
Cheers,
right,
Alex.
mate.
Good to see you,
Cheers.
mate. All the best.